All right, welcome back to Chapter 8. We're going to have a look at the phone formatting function in the in-class exercise. And to just show you how this works, what we're going to do is type in essentially 10 digits and get the computer to take those 10 digits and then pull it apart, put it back together and format it. So it'll come back with a message that says something like the phone number is, and it formats it by putting in the brackets, the space, and the hyphen. Even if we put in, some spaces at the beginning, spaces at the end, and click on Format, it still works the same way. Now, if I was to put in like another character, well, that would be an invalid input. We couldn't really test for that. Well, we could, but it would be a lot more coding involved. So the purpose of this one here is to take user input, which is hopefully 10 digits, and then format it into a traditional phone number format. All right, so what happens is when the user types in the numbers and we click this event handler, we want to basically collect that input. So we're going to create a variable here, declare a variable here called the input. I guess we could have called that the phone number. And we're going to collect it by going, of course, into our text box right here and grabbing it. But we're using a method now that we haven't used in the past, and that is whenever they type in, we can trim off any excess leading or ending spaces in that case. And that was what the example I just gave earlier here. If you put spaces before and after, it'll clean the data a little bit before it saves the 10 digits right here. Now, the condition, what I'm trying to ask for here is I want to check to make sure is the data that the user put in, is it valid? Could be letters, could be special characters. I want just 10 numbers. That's what I want to do. So in doing that, I'm going to call upon a method here called isValidNumber. Is it a valid number? And this is a method that I wrote, and I'm passing the entire string here as the input. And all I'm doing is check to see if it's valid. So I'm not returning anything in this case. I'm returning actually a Boolean value. That's not true. It's going to come back as this expression is either true or false. So I'm going to pass in the input. I'm going to call it str. That's my input. And one of the rules here was that it has to be 10 digits long. That's a telephone number. And by default, I'm going to put a flag in here called is the number valid? And I'm going to start off with an optimistic approach here and assume that they typed it in correctly, unless they don't. If they don't, then I'll have to switch the valid flag here to false in that case. Now, the argument that we passed into this parameter called str would be hopefully the 10 digits, and that length should come back at 10. Well, that's the first condition, and it has to equal the actual length, which is 10. So that's the first one. Now we're going to repeat through that particular string, and we're going to go character by character, and we're going to look. So we're going to look at the first index, which is it a digit of that char? And if that char is a digit, no problem. It's still, well, no, so I'm sorry, if it's not, there we go. Sorry, it is not character. If that's the case, that means it's probably a letter or a punctuation or special character, and then therefore the flag gets flipped and it's no longer a valid data. But as long as that's not the case, then we'll keep looping through the entire string until we come across that. And once we've completed all that, we're going to go down to this line right here, and we're going to return our flag. So it's going to come back. It's going to say, yep, that's true. It's all good. And let's process the data. Now, in this example here, we're going in and we're going to format it, and we're passing our number by ref, which means that when we pass it into the calling method, we can then change its value, change its output. So we're going to pass by ref here. If we don't, and we know what that is too, so we're going to pass by ref, not out. So we have it already. We have the data. All right, so it's going to pass it down into this phone number, and basically we're just going to insert a bracket at the 0, the 4, a space, and then we're going to insert a hyphen, which basically concatenates our new string here, which is how the format occurs. And then, of course, it's already changed the str, and from there we can simply just output that message, the str, back into the message box. So the message box input becomes the message, and then we concatenate it with that message box there.